Welcome to a new video with the Electric Trucker. This week is my second week with the DAF XD Electric, and in this video, I'll talk about my drive with the Iveco hydrogen truck from a few weeks ago, and do a tour to Italy that would not be possible with a diesel truck. My week has started, and I already completed the first leg of the trip to Sweden. Today I'm doing a 10-hour drive. You're allowed to do that twice a week. The rest of the time it's limited to 9 hours. I have to take 2 breaks, and that's not a bad move since the week doesn't start great. The truck's charging performance here is only 260 kilowatts, with a short peak at 300. But with 2 stops, such issues are far more manageable than with only 1 stop. I wanted to briefly reflect on the hydrogen video. I find the technology interesting and wanted to understand it with an open mind. I always find it silly when people judge electric trucks without ever having driven one, like the diesel drivers at rest stops who say electric trucks are not good, but they never tried one before. It was important for me to apply that same standard to hydrogen trucks and test one myself. I kept my opinions to myself during the interview and let the expert do most of the talking. And I learned a few important things, like the difference between 700 bar and 350 bar refueling. I thought one was just faster than the other, but I didn't realize the energy density would be so different. Then there's the fact that many 700 bar stations are being shut down. That's wild, because it means the Iveco we tested now only gets 400 kilometers of range instead of 800. Suddenly the battery electric Iveco goes farther than the hydrogen, and the biggest argument for hydrogen was always range. Another thing I learned was that hydrogen stations struggle with partial refills. If the tank's half full, topping it off takes much longer due to the pressure difference. That's a big downside, especially since partial charges are super common with electric trucks too. And then there's the cost. At €16.67 per kilogram, hydrogen costs about €1.50 per kilometer in fuel alone, which is crazy. And that's with subsidies. Battery electric trucks, even on public chargers, are around 30 to 40 cents per kilometer. So if hydrogen doesn't offer a clear range advantage, why pay 3 times the energy cost? Of course, I'm a big fan of battery electric trucks, but blasting my opinion during the video wouldn't have helped anyone. Listening is more valuable than shouting your opinion, and I think we need more of that in general. That's why I make these videos. Not to tell you what to think, but to show the experience so everyone can make up their own mind. If I had said from the start that hydrogen is dead, they wouldn't have let me test the truck, and then we'd all learn nothing. If liquid hydrogen trucks one day go 3,000 kilometers, cost less than battery ones, and use cheaper stations, sign me up. Until then, I'm happy to test and learn, and for now, battery electric trucks are in the lead. The second stop at Mailenz worked perfectly. And the place is actually really nice. It's a top-tier rest stop with super clean facilities. But it's a bit eerie. Apart from a few parked trucks from a company nearby, there's not a single regular trucker here. In the last video we had that annoying charging interruption. I was sitting inside and didn't notice, which is a big problem. What would help is an app to notify you about the charging status, but I've never driven a truck that actually comes with a smartphone app. The next best option would be an app for the charging station itself, but you don't want drivers logging in and out of apps, switching accounts and vehicles. Just thinking about that gives me a headache. In the long run, the most reliable way to link charging sessions directly to the truck will still be the charging card. Sounds old school and insecure, but for now it's the only option. We're now past Berlin, and if everything keeps going smoothly, this might turn out to be a perfect day. I've got 1 hour and 41 minutes left to my destination, and I'm still allowed to drive for 2 hours and 12 minutes. Let's just hope there's no traffic. I'm also only stopping at charging parks I already know. Because everything has to work, there is no room for risks. Quick note on the criticism about the truck from the last video. There are a few areas that still need improvement, but if you only look at the key criteria for long-haul transport, it's a different story. It needs to have enough range for the day, and I'm getting around 500 kilometers range, which is enough. Then it's about energy consumption and charging performance. Charging speed isn't perfect yet, but that's being worked on, so let's put that aside for now. Looking at consumption. Worst case, it used 1.1 kilowatt hours per kilometer. On the way back, empty, it was down to 0.6. That's actually more efficient than the ETGX. Based on that, it's arguably the best truck I've driven so far. It struggles going uphill, and that annoys the driver, but the logistics company only cares about cost efficiency. The driver doesn't buy the vehicle. The issue with the remaining range display is kind of wild. Some trucks show a really conservative estimate, which isn't bad in itself. But then the driver gets in and sees that the truck only has 400 kilometers range and won't even start the trip because he needs 450 and it would be too risky. But showing nothing at all is even more bold. The truck knows the state of charge and it knows the total battery size. Just multiply that and divide it by the current consumption and you've got an estimated range. It doesn't need to be perfect, Just something. Second issue, the axle load information. I asked around and turns out it wasn't ordered. Either someone messed up during configuration or the dealer skipped it. Which is kind of nuts because that's an important feature for electric trucks. I can't even tell you whether this truck tends to overload the rear axle, and that's something I'd really like to know. The factory should always double check with dealers whether the trucks are supposed to be delivered without that feature, because it's really crucial info for e-trucks. My day is done. The trailer is parked in the back. I'm charging the truck for tomorrow and soon I'll go for a walk with the dog. It's a bit of a puzzle to figure out the best charging strategy here. There are 4 chargers that deliver a steady 175 kilowatts, then there's one off to the side that only gives 150 kilowatts. And then there's a 300 kilowatt charger, but the cables are not cooled, and it drops first to 230 and then 150 kilowatts. You almost need a degree to figure out the best option, but thankfully you rarely see such a weird mix of hardware in one place. We're crossing the Öresund in perfect weather, and the timing this morning worked out great. I took a 9-hour rest break and arrived at the ferry just before departure. I probably could have taken a later one, but I really wanted to catch the 4:15. I didn't get the chance to charge before the ferry, but I still got 36% left, and the truck is very efficient. I'm heading to the unloading point now. And after that, I'll see how things go. I've also set up a Circle K account for the Nordics. They're a major charging provider up here, and they're also starting to build chargers in Germany. There's one on my route, so I'm going to swing by. It has 400 kilowatt chargers, but it might still have the old software where it offers more than 500 amps, which makes the truck end the charging process. But since it's right along the way, I'll give it a try to test it out. Now it's getting interesting. It hit 502 amps and then shut off. Took ages to get there with a really strange charging curve. So we've confirmed the theory in practice. Charging point operators really need to be aware that these trucks still have issues with it. But there are also a few older 300 kilowatt car chargers back here. I hooked up to one of those and the charging curve is once again, let's say, creative. But it works with this charger because it strictly stays below the 500 amp limit, which is exactly what the truck needs. Tomorrow morning, I need to pick up a load in Hamburg. The order specifically says electric truck requested. I'm really curious what that's about. I don't have much shift time left, but I'm going to head a bit further south into Denmark today, but I'll save the ferry for tomorrow. The ferry can be unpredictable with timing and wait times, and I'd rather not sleep right at the port, but at a charging spot where I can park overnight. I found my spot for the night, and what a view. I'm on the island of Faroe, a small island that stretches out further with 2 massive highway bridges crossing over. Really stunning. There are only a few truck parking spots here, and I got lucky. There are also 2 300 kilowatt chargers. I also spotted another charger for cars. I think I was here years ago with my electric Nissan camper, and I'm pretty sure I charged here on an old triple charger. That's been replaced now with a 400 kilowatt unit that's software limited. I'm gonna go for a run, do a bit of exercise, and enjoy the sun. Good night, and see you tomorrow. Good morning. I've already took the ferry to Germany and drove over 200 kilometers. Now I'm in Hamburg topping up the battery. The truck still had 62% battery left, which would mean a total range with full battery of around 550 kilometers. Really cool to see that the combination of low power, good aerodynamics, and the small cab design makes such a big difference. The charging spot here isn't perfect though. One of the chargers in the back has been broken for a while. But I've got a fun neighbor, a massive MAN city bus, the Lion City E. Not sure about the exact battery specs, but it's charging at 132 kilowatts. Not super fast, but city buses usually charge overnight at the depot anyway. It has these tiny digital side mirrors too, and I've never shared a charger with a bus before, since city buses don't charge in public. Now I'm just waiting for the day I run into an electric coach. When I arrived, another truck was parked kind of awkwardly, so I couldn't pull in properly. Had to drive forward and reverse in. Truck charging station layouts can be tricky, especially when the space is limited. There's no perfect solution for it. The truck is getting fully loaded with solar panels. The customer specifically requested electric transport, and it makes total sense. Moving renewable energy tech with an electric truck really fits the whole energy transition vibe.
Hallo, Kuckuck.
I had a quick look at the papers. The solar panels are from Luxor, most likely 445 watt-peak monocrystalline modules. There were 35 panels per pallet, and 26 pallets total. That means I'm hauling about 404 kilowatt peak worth of solar modules, basically enough to build a small charging park. The route is 233 kilometers, which I can cover in a single driving shift, so I'll be able to deliver early in the afternoon. I ended up stuck in traffic near Bremen for quite a while, but I should be able to drop off the load around 2, and after that, I'll head to the Netherlands for another pickup. One thing I wanted to show you. The digital side mirrors have a bit of image noise when it gets dark. You lose some detail in the background. I never noticed it this clearly before, but maybe it's something you get used to. But the layout on the right is something I have gotten used to because it's really well done. Especially the corner cam down low is brilliant. It replaces both the ramp mirror and side mirror in one view. When going through a roundabout, you can get super close to the curb and still feel completely safe. I wouldn't want to go back. These corner mirrors should be standard on all trucks. They're just that good. I'm now unloading at an external warehouse in an old barn. And those black panels on the roof are the exact same ones I transported here. I'm now topping up the truck. It's been a super long day, from 1 in the morning till now at 4 in the afternoon. But that's the legal limit anyway. The truck is only charging at 100 kilowatts for some reason, but since I've got time, it's not a problem at the moment. Here in the Netherlands are so many roundabouts, which is perfect to explain to you how the gearbox works. It's got a 3-speed planetary gearbox, which is a pretty wild setup. When I accelerate out of a roundabout, you can feel a gear change and another one at around 50 kilometers per hour, but there's no loss of pulling power. You lose a bit of acceleration momentum, but there's no noticeable pause. It feels super smooth to drive. Basically, the electric motor and gearbox aren't separate. The 3-speed planetary gearbox is integrated right into the motor housing. After the Iveco, this is the nicest gearbox I've driven so far, because it's barely noticeable. Now I'm fully loaded with 60 pallets weighing 24 tons. The truck should handle that just fine, but of course it's a bit more sluggish now. You get used to it though, and honestly, it's doing a good job. The load is garbage bags for the Leer district. We're picking them up and bringing them back to the main warehouse in Leer. I loaded everything myself with an electric pallet jack. The forklift driver just set the pallets at the back, and I moved them in. It was a bit of a morning workout, but way easier than using a manual jack. I'm in our dispatch office, and way back there you can see my DAF at charging station number 1, and all the way in the back is my trailer. I'm in our command center and can see a pretty cool dashboard. What we see here is all 10 charging stations we have. These are 300 kilowatt Siemens chargers, and you can see my DAF is currently pulling 237 kilowatts. Even on a cloudy day like today, we're still producing a surplus of solar energy and can store it. You can see there are no other trucks charging at the moment. The screen also shows the 2 PV systems, one ground-mounted and one rooftop, and our 2 large battery storage units with 1.3 megawatt hours in total. Since not many trucks are charging during the day, the energy goes straight into my truck and to fill the batteries. I'm on my way to the next pickup, and an FH Electric from Maersk passed by. I gave a little wave and he waved back. Usually you greet each other if you're from the same company, driving the same truck, or if the truck is something rare. But maybe it will become a thing that electric truckers greet each other. With the DAF, it says electric in huge letters, so maybe he saw it. Or maybe he was just being friendly without knowing why. Either way, I thought it was funny, and I'm going to keep doing it. I managed to drove to Paderborn, but now my driving time is up. And I just went for a run because, stupidly, I signed up for a half marathon. So I have to train a bit. There were still 5 cars charging here when I left, but when I came back, they were all gone. The usage really swings wildly at these charging parks. And I'm hauling life rafts again. My favorite cargo because they are easy to secure, not too heavy, and have to go to cool places. They are headed to La Spezia in Italy. But here's the problem. It has to be delivered by Tuesday, and Monday is a holiday. Not just in Germany, but also in Austria. So my plan to head home over the weekend and deliver it next week doesn't work out. I will probably have to drive straight through to Italy, maxing out all my weekly driving and shift times. I found my spot for the night, and let me show you my neighbor. He's fixing his truck. It's really impressive how drivers from foreign transport companies like Polish or Romanian ones just repair their trucks right out on the road. With some of the larger fleets, they send out vans from all over Europe just to get the truck back up and running. Towing it to a workshop and waiting for weeks just isn't an option. We do the same at Nano Janssen. We've got a workshop team that can head out quickly if needed. I see this kind of thing fairly often, and I'm always impressed by how skilled and dedicated these people are. We're driving through the Kassel Mountains, but I'm not fully loaded this time. It's more of a volume transport, with about 3/4 of the loading area filled. There's a lot of traffic right now, but you can definitely keep a better pace compared to last time when the truck was fully loaded. So the 350 kilowatts of power are just enough, but trucks should ideally be designed for full load performance. I made it through the Kassel Mountains, and I used about half the battery for 239 kilometers, which would mean nearly 500 kilometers of range with mountainous conditions. So this truck is definitely suitable for long-distance transport. If it also could consistently charge at high power, it would be perfect. And I've now figured out my next move. Since I have to drive 1,200 kilometers to Italy, and Monday is a holiday in Germany, Austria, and South Tyrol, meaning there's a truck driving ban, I need to cross the Brenner Pass into Italy today or tomorrow, or the tour next week won't work out. I'm heading south but won't go through Switzerland because I'd have to register for transit, which would take some time. Instead, I'm going via Munich, Innsbruck, and then the Brenner Pass. I stopped for a quick charge along the route, and here's the master plan. I'll drive till Raupling and take my 11-hour rest break there. I can continue at 4 in the morning, and it takes me 2 hours to reach the Brenner See. The driving ban starts at 7, so I could just make it to Italy on Saturday. But the worst case would be if I run out of shift time and have to spend the night on the highway. Then I wouldn't be allowed to drive on Sunday or Monday because of the driving ban in South Tyrol. That would be an absolute worst-case scenario and mess everything up. There's so much holiday traffic now. Hour by hour, more and more cars are hitting the road for the long weekend, and my plan already isn't working out anymore. I was stuck in traffic for a long time, and now there's another traffic jam on the A8. I'm only allowed to drive for 35 more minutes, so I have to stop earlier. I made it to Holzkirchen, found a parking spot, and am charging at 280 kilowatts. But holiday travel is really unpredictable. The rotation of cars stopping here to charge is so fast. I was really lucky to get a free spot on the side. Today's leg was a bit shorter, about 600 kilometers, but it went well. Plus, I can charge here for only 33 cents. Tomorrow morning I can start a bit earlier and just have to make it over the Brenner in time. Good morning. I hit the road at 2:30, and that gives me a bit more breathing room and makes things a little more relaxed. But there's a ton of traffic. Everyone seems to be heading out on holiday. It's crazy how full the highway is this early in the morning. Let's hope there's no traffic jam ahead. And this leg of the trip wouldn't be possible with a diesel truck. There's still a truck driving ban in Austria till 5 in the morning, but with the electric truck, I'm allowed to drive all night. I'm curious to see if I'll get stopped, and also what's going to happen to those other trucks that just overtook me. Unless they have special permits or exemptions, they shouldn't be driving yet. Let's see if they get pulled over. Now the tension rises. There are more and more cars everywhere. I managed to get past the toll booth smoothly, but you can see the red line of traffic ahead. The navigation is showing a 48-minute traffic jam. The navigation is usually overly optimistic, so it could easily be double. The clock is ticking. In 2.5 hours, the driving ban kicks in. It's 5:19, and the trucks have already merged to the left. I think I've made it through the worst of it. Now it's over the Brenner and then rolling down into Italy. I'm take a rest break soon and then head to a proper truck charging site because going to a car charging station would be pure chaos. Even if there were charging stations here, it's absolute chaos. Cars are constantly coming in, trucks are parked all over the place, and I'm not even sure if I'll be able to get back out of here. It's insanely crowded. But from here on out, it's all downhill, so energy consumption will be excellent. I'm not worried about range at all. It's unique to experience this kind of travel chaos firsthand, and more cars just keep showing up. Only half an hour to go until I reach my destination, and I still have 39% battery left. The truck is really efficient, and that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. Yesterday, I compiled all the charging data and I noticed something interesting. The DAF has relatively high charging losses. When I compare historical data, the Iveco and the MAN both have charging losses of about 3 to 3.5%, but the DAF has losses of 8%, more than double. There are two possible explanations. It either really has such high losses, but technically I can't explain that, or the usable battery capacity might not actually be what's claimed. I always calculate everything based on the stated net capacity and then compare it with what goes into the battery. That gives me the charging losses. But if the truck actually has more usable capacity than 462 kilowatt hours, then that would mean the real consumption is higher than what my analysis shows. So bottom line, the DAF is hiding something. Either it consumes more than expected, or it has unusually high charging losses. You can tell summer has arrived because it's nearly 30 degrees Celsius here. I'm at a really cool Milans charging park south of Verona. There's a gate at the front, you just ring the bell and they let you in. They also got showers and toilets. Now I'm charging the DAF, and these 400 kilowatt chargers have the newest update. Maybe there are Italian customers driving DAF or Iveco who had issues and reported them, or maybe Alpatronic gave them a heads up. Whatever the case, the communication worked and now I can charge without any issues. I'll charge to 100% because charging options for trucks in Italy are limited, and I've got around 200 kilometers left, so I will play it safe. Today I can drive for another 10 hours, but then everything is pushed to the limit. Driving time, shift time, even weekly hours. But it's been really fun, and this holiday weekend makes me feel like I'm on holiday too. Charging losses are a really interesting topic. Right now, the 24-volt system is running, and we're charging at 227 kilowatts. At the same time, the truck is consuming 14 kilowatts. And if you do the math, that's 6%. 6% of the energy I'm currently paying for is going into battery cooling, including internal wiring losses and general system draw while charging. It's about 30 degrees Celsius right now, so it's pretty warm, but still. It's wild that 6% is used for thermal management. And 250 kilowatts isn't even crazy high for this truck. This should actually be a fairly relaxed charging session. Imagine what happens during megawatt charging. The energy required just to keep the batteries cool must be massive. It's yet another argument against MCS. All of it costs money. The technology is expensive, the losses at the charging station are higher, and you end up paying for all of it. Really important to keep data like this in mind. I honestly hadn't realized it was hilly on the way to La Spezia. I've made it over the highest point, but I'm unsure whether I'll need to top up somewhere on the way back. But that's a problem for Tobias of next week. And I wanted to say a few quick words about the recuperation lever, because it's actually quite an interesting system. It doesn't have fixed stages. You can just tap it, and that setup has a few advantages. Let's say you're currently recuperating, and then you activate cruise control. If you later deactivate cruise control, the truck starts coasting again. The recuperation level is cleared. And that's actually a really nice feature. In the Iveco, I always had to manually pull the lever up when I engaged cruise control and wanted to coast afterwards. If you deactivate cruise control, you don't want to suddenly start recuperating again. In this truck, it's handled smart because the lever doesn't have fixed notches. Basically, it works like a turn signal stalk in a Tesla or BMW. It returns to center and is digitally controlled. So overall, a really slick solution. I found a parking spot near the harbor. Unfortunately, I don't have a sea view, but the city center is right over there, so I can definitely walk over there. Now I'm just looking for a nice shady spot to park, and I've got 13 minutes of driving time left for the week, so everything worked out perfectly in the end. The DAF made it to the port of La Spezia. This was a really cool trip. I've already explored the area, went for a short jog, and did some shopping. Tomorrow I'll check out the city center, and they've got e-bike and e-scooter sharing here, so I can get around easily and do a bit of sightseeing. When you're at the Mediterranean, you've got to enjoy it a bit. All in all, I'm pretty happy with the truck. Like I said in the video, it's got a few teething problems, but overall works well. It got me here without issue, and that's a solid performance. I've driven over 3,500 kilometers this week, which is pretty impressive for an electric truck. And the cool detail is that only the electric truck could have done this route. A diesel truck wouldn't have been allowed to drive at night, so the trip wouldn't have worked out at all. Now I'm getting curious about the return trip next week, and if you want to see the video earlier, you can get early access with a YouTube membership. Wishing you a great rest of the day, and I'll see you next week. Greetings from Italy.